You better be one hell of a player with one hell of a past to ever be considered the point god. Like so many greats before him, there was always a reason why Chris Paul had never made it to the NBA's promised land. But with CP3, it felt like almost an anomaly. How could someone so good at what they do never make it to the finals in 16 seasons? Let's take a trip back through time. Paul was thrown into the fire almost immediately, facing a Game 7 against the almighty San Antonio Spurs at the peak of their powers in 2008. Shots just wouldn't go in. Mistakes were made. There was the famous series against the grit and grind Grizzlies that was more hell in a cell than basketball at times, and forced Chris Paul to record one of his lowest assist average totals during a series in his playoff career to this day. The following campaign was the first choke job. There is no other way to put it. 2 turnovers in the final 17 seconds, up 4 with the ball.
It's all over.
You thought that was bad? Just 1 season later, the blown 3-1 lead to the Rockets. The climax of the Chris Paul narrative that was ironically its lowest point. Or so you thought. The redemption season that had been going so well was broken in half, figuratively and literally, by CP3's broken hand in Game 4 against the Blazers. On the verge of pulling off one of the great dynasty overthrows in recent memory, the Houston Rockets' lead horse pulled up lame in Game 5. The rest was history. For so long, it was the perfect storm of ways to lose in excruciating fashion. Game 7s, injuries, bad luck, bad timing. Factors which were both in his control or not. With Chris Paul, there was always something that kept him from checking that final box of prerequisites of becoming a consensus all-time great. Unfair? Maybe. But the cold hard truth, nevertheless. That same sentiment reared its ugly head once again throughout these playoffs, like a dark cloud following him around that he just can't ever get rid of. We've all had them at some point in our lives. Chris Paul once again goes down with a major injury in the series against the Lakers. He can barely lift the ball above his head. He's a walking zombie compared to his usual performance standards. A decoy at best. Yet, his team survives. Just when you thought he might finally be in the clear, COVID. Quarantine. Almost 2 weeks away from the team. Torn ligaments in his hand. Yet again, his team survives. It's funny because surviving is the theme of this year, on and off the court. A season in which has seen a record 10 All-Stars miss at least 1 game in the playoffs. And that's not including Trae Young or Jamal Murray. There was every excuse available to Chris Paul to blame yet another postseason disappointment on abnormal circumstances. To be honest, we would have all forgiven him, as we always seem to do, because we've all seen what this man does to franchises the moment he puts the jersey on. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and CP3 has been igniting championship contenders since the moment he stepped into the league. But this NBA playoffs has been a war of attrition, fortifying the old, the best ability is availability adage. And for Chris Paul to be one of the last men standing at this point in his career after all that's happened to him needs to be recognized and celebrated. Believe it or not, Game 6 in LA wasn't the first time CP3 had posted 41 points and 0 turnovers in a closeout series game. He did it in 2018 against the Jazz and won. He became the second oldest player to score 40 points in a playoff contest. All of those anomalies, which have been burdening Paul throughout his career, finally have seemed to even out. It's one thing to get lucky, and it's another to create your own luck. CP3 has been working on this for almost 2 decades. That's all great, and honestly expected with someone of his caliber. But this is the most important part. Even when he wasn't there physically, his impact is still felt.
They're FaceTiming with Chris Paul. The expectation is he'll be back for Game 3 in LA again.
Oh, I love CP, man. Like I said, that's really the only teammate that really pushed me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's back. Obviously, 15 assists, 0 turnovers is unheard of. But, you know, for Chris Paul, it's a thing that he does. It makes it look normal.
That's the legacy of Chris Paul, making his teammates better no matter where he goes, simply by his presence and expediting the evolution of their games from potential to reality. He's a lot of things. He is a floor general. He's an all-star. He's even at times annoying as hell. But after this divine finals run, it's only appropriate that he is known above all as the point god.